Alright, my friends, so, Yom HaAtzmaut, huh? There's always this kind of famous discussion in the religious community, in Israel particularly. A little bit here, but mostly in Israel. Because Israel's really where Yom HaAtzmaut is a thing. Whether or not to say something called Hallel on this day. And if you're going to say Hallel, if to say Hallel, do you say it with a blessing or without a blessing? Folks, what is Hallel? Hallel is the set of psalms and praises that we say on certain days. Rosh Chodesh, Passover, Shavuot, and I believe, and on Hanukkah. And Sukkot, and a few other days. This was set down. This set of prayers was set down by Hazal, by basically the Sanhedrin, or by the what do they call it? The men of the Great Assembly. So you fast forward, right, to the creation of the state of Israel, and there were a few rabbis in Israel, particularly followers of Rav Kook, who decided we are going to say Hallel on this day, and we're going to do it with a bracha, because this day, the formation of the state of Israel, however flawed, the fact that we have an army and a state and all these wonderful things, however flawed, is a miracle. Why is it a miracle? Because the Jewish people, folks, in my opinion, in the opinion of a lot of people, but mine for sure, the fact that we were kicked out of our land and we came back after 2,000 years, not only that, we are speaking a dead language. It's now we revived the dead language to everyday use, and we have an army for the first time in 2,000 years. That is a miracle. Not only is that a miracle, the fact that we were not incinerated according to all the rules, quote unquote, of anthropology and history is a miracle in and of itself. So we weren't incinerated. We were supposed to be incinerated many times over the last 2,000 years. And then on top of that, we had the audacity to come back to our land in whatever way we did, like kind of not piecemeal, but like in stages, right? And even the stages have stages, right? Where we go, we take land, we give it away, we take land, we give it away, we pull out, we get it, we get attacked, we have wars, we get it, it's like back and forth like this, because whatever, we have internal problems, as you guys can see, right? But even that is a process. Even that, like my friend said today, is like a we haven't given birth yet, right? It's like a pregnant woman who hasn't given birth yet. When she gives birth, that's Mashiach, right? So far it's pregnant, and now there are the contractions, there's the pregnancy, and it's a tough pregnancy, and whatever it is, and we're still waiting for the birth, really. But even so, even the conception is a miracle. Really, the conception happened before 1948. People started coming back en masse in the 1800s, right? And then we go through all the stuff, early on in the pregnancy, and then 48 was really the middle of there was a war there. We kicked the British out, and then there was a war with the Arabs, and there was another war, and then another war, we got attacked, and again we got attacked, another contraction. Folks, I had a friend he's not for saying Hallel, these psalms on Yom HaAtzmaut, and he tells me, if you're going to say Hallel on anything, if you are, he goes, I would rather say it on what? Yom Yerushalayim. There's a day, Jerusalem Day, that's coming up later this month, which is celebrated not by everybody in Israel. It should be. Which is the day that we took back the old city of Jerusalem. And also the Temple Mount, by the way, which we gave back, the Temple Mount. We gave away to the Waqf, to the Jordanians. So my friends, you could see that there's like the, again, miracle, but then contraction, miracle, contraction, miracle, again, we have these problems, right? We have these internal issues with whomever, right? Some people call it the Erev Rav. I call it the Erev Rav. Some people just call it, lefties, whatever you want to call them, right? Rav Kook said, our problems are great, and so because our problems are great, because our flaws are great, our consolations are even greater. So, my friends, my whole thing is, there are people who say, in Israel, people who say, I'm going to say this Hallel, but I'm not going to say a blessing. Why? Because I don't want to be, I don't want to have the issue of saying what? A blessing, God's name, not in vain, but it's basically a bracha levatala, right? A wasted bracha, right? Why? Because you can only say a blessing on something, on prayers that were set down, technically speaking, by Hazal. Some people say that, right? On prayers that were set down by the rabbis. This is a big deal. But there are some rabbis in Israel who decided, listen, this is an event equivalent to, Hanukkah, equivalent to a Yom Tov. It's miraculous. Folks, it is miraculous. The only thing that's stopping it from being officially miraculous is the fact that we don't have a Sanhedrin to decree officially for the nation to set it down officially that it's miraculous. But we understand it's miraculous. So some people have decided to go and make that a thing by not only saying Hallel, but saying Hallel with a bracha. Folks, for me, it's fine if you don't want to say Hallel, then don't say Hallel, right? If you feel uncomfortable saying Hallel, because we don't have, again, Sanhedrin, Great Assembly, which did not set down saying Hallel, right? But if you're already going to say Hallel, if you're already going that far, and you recognize the miracle, then already say it with a bracha. This Hallel without a bracha stuff, ever since I've first heard about some rabbis doing it, I've always found it very, very, very peculiar. For me. Again, I'm cool if you don't want to say Hallel, fine. I'm cool if you want to say Hallel with a bracha, fine. Folks, the miracle is undeniable. I'll tell you guys something on a personal level, and then I'll wrap up. Why do I consider this? Why do I acknowledge that this is a big miracle? And what makes me want to say Hallel with a bracha? Folks, today I didn't say Hallel. But had I said Hallel, I would have said it with a bracha. I may still say Hallel. The sun did not come down. You can still say Hallel. Guys, the first time I ever went to Israel in my life, I was 13 years old. I went with my parents. It was shortly after my bar mitzvah. I didn't go for my bar mitzvah. I went after my bar mitzvah. It's like one of these, bar mitzvah trips. Post bar mitzvah. And this is back when, some of the planes, you instead of going through the, what you call the accordion, the tube, once the plane pulls up to the gate, they had literally, the ladder going down on the tarmac. So we flew Tower Air. I don't know if you guys remember, there was this airline called Tower Air. I think it was owned by an Israeli guy who lived in America. We flew Tower Air, and we get out of the plane in Israel, Ben Gurion Airport. We come down the tarmac. My father, what's the first thing I see him do? And I don't know why, it was one of the most shocking things to me that I've ever seen in my life. For two reasons. I didn't expect him to do it. Second reason was, I thought only Muslims did stuff like this. Or at least, he knelt down and he kissed the ground. That was the first thing he did. He didn't say anything to anybody. He knelt down, he cried, and he kissed the ground. Folks, that action by my father left such an imprint on me, and my neshama understood. I'm looking back on this. My neshama subconsciously understood that this was a big deal. Well, it was a big deal that we were there. The land of Israel being in the possession of the Jewish people was a big, flippin' deal. Big deal as in miraculous, monumental, grandiose. I personally didn't have the vocabulary at the time to express, but I understood, wow. And I knew that my father wasn't doing this because someone necessarily told him to do it, or, even if they had mentioned it, that you should do that, he didn't do it because they told him, oh, you should do that. He did it because he wanted to do it, because his neshama basically directed him to do it. And so, my friends, ever since the summer of 1994, I think it was July or August when we went, I understood that the land of Israel belonging to the Jewish people, being in possession of a very flawed, later on I would come to find out, a flawed government, as we've come to find out, a very flawed army, is still in a flawed just society, really. I come to realize from living there, is still folks, you don't understand what kind of miracle it is. If you read the Kinot, the Lamentations on the 9th of Av, of the afternoon of the 9th of Av, if you read all the stuff, you read about what happened on Tisha B'Av, the original Tisha B'Av, when the temple was destroyed. You read about everything that happened since then, all the stuff that happened in Europe to us, and I don't know, the Middle East, all these different places. Folks, it's like it's like pigs flying. My friends, I hate to mention pigs in Israel. It's like gravity. It's almost as if, Hashem would take the level of gravity that there is on the moon, which is none, and create an environment like that on Earth. My friends, it defies everything. Us coming back to Israel defies everything. Us still being physically animated here on this earth, I'm talking about the Jewish people, defies everything. Folks, it's the ultimate proof of Hashem. For me, it was the ultimate, before I even met any rabbis, before I had any Torah classes, I already understood, just from the existence of the Jewish people, that Hashem is real, that there's a God, right? However he operates, however he allows certain things, and we don't like those things, and even down to October 7th, but there is a God, right? I understood that. And then the land of Israel, us coming back to it, that is a miracle, worthy of Hallel, worthy of a bracha, yes. And my friends, this is just my speculation, I will say that when Mashiach comes, we're probably going to find out that the people who were saying the bracha, Hallel with a bracha, were not wrong in saying it. I'm not saying that everybody should have said it. I'm just saying that they were not wrong. They will not be, reprimanded for doing that, right? Especially if you're in the land of Israel. Honestly, guys, when I'm outside the land of Israel, I'm not pulled to say Hallel with a bracha. When I'm in the land of Israel, my friends, you can rest assured, I do, I would, I have. Just like you see, I shaved. Today I shaved. Or I trimmed my beard. Right? Because it is a day to commemorate, a day to dafka rejoice. I said this before in a previous video. It's very difficult to rejoice these days because of everything that's going on, and everything, by the way, that the Israeli government has allowed. But again, we have an Israeli government to begin with, even one that allows whatever they allow, right? Or just, behaves the way they behave. We don't not have an Israeli government. Some people say, well, it'd be better if we didn't. No, my friends. It's part of the process. And by the way, if Hashem didn't want us to have one, he wouldn't have let us have one. Trust me on that. He would decree that we should not have one. And I know that there are people who are arguing with me up and down, people who actually live in the place where I'm at right now, who would say, Tzvi, no, we did it against his will, blah, blah, blah. My friends, again, like, nothing happens unless Hashem doesn't want it to happen. So, and believe you me, I'm not the biggest fan of the Israeli government at the moment. Not that I ever was, right? So, my friends, we're living in miraculous times. It cannot be denied that Mashiach is very close. However you hold by Hallel, no Hallel, yes Hallel, with a bracha, without a bracha. I care about you as a Jew just the same. I'm totally cool with however you feel about that, however you rule, however you decide for yourself, so to speak, or whoever you hold by. Let's put it that way. Whoever you decide to hold by, whatever decree or whatever halachic, what we call psak, you decide to hold by. I'm totally cool with that. No personal judgment. But we're living in a miracle, my friends. That much you should know. You can say, oh, we're living in a miracle every day. Guys, whatever I just described to you, okay? And the fact that we had such a horror show a couple of years ago, and the fact that we're seemingly, very slowly, but seemingly, we are winning. We are winning, right? We're going to win. Like I said, as Dr. Zelenko said, the question is what is going to be the body count. So, that's basically it, my friends. And Zat Hashem, we will continue and we will defeat our enemies, and very soon we will see the coming of Mashiach. Zat Hashem. Alright guys, Yom HaAtzmaut Sameach, and I will talk to you soon.